In March of 2019, a mother posted that her 17-year-old son, Kieran Washington, was passed up for a job at Six Flags because he had dreadlocks. Well, jokes on Six Flags, Kieran ended up signing with IMG Modeling Agency and is now making way more than that crappy $8 an hour in soul-crushing monotony they were offering. This is not a new story. Someone getting fired or passed up for a job for traditionally black hairstyles. Yet, not all stories end up like Kieran. Hair discrimination, or hair texture discrimination, is a form of social injustice that targets specific hairstyles and textures, usually those of people of color. Examples of this would be banning locks, braids, wavy hair, or even afros. In 2020, the American Bar Association published an article that stated 80% of African American women felt they needed to switch up their hairstyles to align with a more conservative standard in order to fit in at work. Without a law protecting natural or protective hairstyles, companies are allowed to ban them or fire anyone who breaks these rules. So maybe this woman should be fired, because in August of 2020, Adele posted a photo of her wearing a hairstyle called Bantu knots. Soon after posting the photo on Instagram, she was hit with a ton of backlash for cultural appropriation of a culturally black hairstyle, which I'm assuming she knew was coming based on that look of absolute terror on her face. A white celebrity getting a hairstyle firmly rooted in black culture is nothing new. The issue comes from the fact that they are often praised for these looks, while black people are fired or criticized for the exact same hairstyle. Adele's cultural appropriation aside, here are some very unfunny examples of how hair discrimination has some very real and lasting impacts on people's lives. Last year, Desmond Arnold, a teenager at Barber Hill High School, a public school in Texas, it's always Texas, was banned from classes and denied his chance to walk at graduation unless he cut off his dreadlocks. Something he said he could never do because it's a part of his culture and it lets him feel connected to his dad.
So if I go back to school tomorrow, my only options are in-school suspension or alternative school.
And what is alternative school?
Alternative school is where all the kids that have, behavioral issues, sell drugs, fight all the time, I wish the best for them. And I know they have good qualities in them, but I don't deserve to be grouped with them.
In 2018, a 17-year-old Andrew Johnson was forced to cut his locks after a white referee gave him 90 seconds to do so, or forfeit his senior year championship wrestling match. In January 2019, Brittany Noble, a newscaster from Jackson, Mississippi, was fired after she started to wear natural hair on air. Even I have had issues with being discriminated for my hair, from former coaches telling me to wear my natural hair neater to an interviewer telling me that braids are dirty and they expect clean hair from their employees. And these comments are common with people of color and are deeply rooted in racism. From the 1786 Tignon laws in Louisiana that forced black women to wear a headscarf, to minstrel songs about nappy hair, to Juliana of the Fashion Police saying Zendaya's hair looks like she smells like marijuana.
I love Zendaya's style, and I love when she has the little hair. She just had it. I think she's such a tiny frame that this hair to me overwhelms her. Like, I feel like she smells like patchouli oil. Or weed. Yeah, maybe weed.
I mean, I guess that's better than smelling like cheap wine and rudeness, Juliana. People of color are taught to hide who they are just to fit into society. But the natural hair movement is fighting back and trying to teach people to love themselves and their hair without altering themselves to fit into some arbitrary box. This issue is so big that even Sesame Street wrote a song about it.
You know what I love, that's right. My hair, I really love my hair. I love my hair, I love my hair.
And as great as this song is, there's already a law that can protect people from being fired or kicked out of school for their hair. First passed in California of 2019, the Crown Act, or the Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair Act, is a bill that will prohibit hair discrimination. Passed in only 8 out of the 50 U.S. states, the act would ensure protections for individuals in workplace and K-12 public schools. And while it just seems like a law that everyone would be on board with, some politicians are not. In New York, several politicians like Senator Lanza voted against the act, which, Senator Lanza, you should be the last person against the anti-hair discrimination law. And some cities are taking it upon themselves to try to pass the act that their state failed to pass. But this doesn't even have to be a state issue. Under the Civil Rights Act, Congress can pass this act. In fact, they've tried to pass this act. In December of 2019, Representative Ilhan Omar introduced the Crown Act in the House and it passed. So where is it now? That's a good question. Somewhere along the way, it died, much like Lindsey Graham's spirit during the Trump presidency. And it has the support of several senators as they have spoken out about it, including, as Tucker Carlson calls him, robotic Pete Buttigieg.
This is about freedom, too. You're not free if you can be kicked out of school or lose your job because somebody says your hair is a distraction. Hair discrimination is racial discrimination, and we ought to recognize that at the national level, too.
And you know it's a cold day in hell when Pete Buttigieg and I are on the same page or something. So why hasn't this passed? Mainly because it doesn't benefit the majority of those in power. But that really shouldn't matter. And at the end of the day, it could protect so many from injustice. So visit the site on screen and call up your senators and pressure them to pass this act, because it's about time we stop a common form of discrimination. And remember to love your hair.